I just like how, your plans are here and you think they're really awesome. And then he just goes, actually, just like look over here. Oh, I was looking in the wrong direction every time.
Yeah, I was looking at this room and now you've made me look out the window. It's like,
wow. Well, that's good.
I'm looking out the window. What can I see? Oh, God's plan for me. Welcome back, everyone, to the Chip Lunch Podcast, and it's lovely to have you along with us, and it's lovely to have Braden.
Put a little bit of extra spice.
Bit of flavour. Bit of flavour on the lovely. How are you, Braden?
Good, how are you?
Got a beanie on. It's pretty cold today.
Yes.
Compared to yesterday, though, yesterday was so cold. There was ice on the windscreen of my car. Like a tiny bit of ice. I wiped the windscreen. It's like had a little bit of ice on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Getting ready for week away.
Yeah. But I feel like week away is warmer than that for some reason.
It was last year.
Was it?
Yeah, I feel like last year was particularly warm.
I feel like if you get the good weather, it's always really warm during the middle of the day.
I do love winter though.
Do you?
I don't know. I had to do some riding yesterday, so I purposely set up, rather than being in another room, I set up on the kitchen table in the sun. And
nice.
It was a good spot to be.
What were you writing?
Sermon.
Your memoirs.
Yeah, my memoirs. Yeah,
cool.
Every day with Braden.
Yeah, exactly.
It starts with breakfast.
I can't even journal, let alone do that. Let alone put someone else through that kind of torture.
Braden's vlogging.
Yeah. Hi guys.
Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back. We should say welcome to the Chip Lunch feed, which is Trudi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hey. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Now, we've had your husband on quite a while ago for the Chip Lunch, but it's your turn.
Yay.
It also aligns well with talking about what you're doing in the future, very near future, which we'll get onto. However, we always like to start the podcast with the very same question, which is, how do you like to have hot chips?
I want to be subversive and say I don't really eat chips.
Whoa!
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh.
Just not my thing, really.
Oh.
But if I was, definitely no chicken salt.
Oh.
Yes.
You're just nah.
I feel like we're slowly catching up.
Plain salt has definitely had a resurgence this year.
Yeah, plain salt for sure.
Yeah. Again, like I said, the classics will always stay. Chicken salt is like this fad.
I just reckon chicken salt tastes like you're eating chemicals, so why would you do it?
That's
fine.
That's part of, it's fine. I agree with Trudi.
Great chemicals.
I'm okay with that.
Doesn't matter. Just put poison in your body. It doesn't matter.
It's like when the fluorescent yellow chips come out and you're like, I'm going to put chemicals on those.
Yeah, there's enough.
Yeah, right. Do you have any sauce or anything, or is it just, if you have to have it, it's plain salt and that's it?
They're just off Anthony's plate, essentially.
We should get Anthony's opinion on that. Probably
There's no choice.
Don't take them.
That's part of being married, isn't it? I can take 3 chips off your plate when they look good, but it's not very often.
Yeah, okay. What if it looks good? What does that mean? What do they have? What do they have to be to look good?
Crunchy on the outside, not yellow.
Or at least a pale yellow, not a deep.
Browned, not yellowed. Yeah.
Okay.
And hot.
Yeah.
Not
yes.
soggy and
Oh yeah, that's a
old.
problem.
Not wrinkled.
Again, oh gosh, can't have a veteran chip.
The veteran. The ones that have been sitting there going, help me for the last 2 hours.
The ones that should be in a cheap nursing home. Just every time someone says cold and soggy, I just think of Weng's.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard Weng's story? Weng likes to have Macca's chips delivered because sometimes he prefers them a bit cold, and then sometimes he puts them in the fridge overnight and then eats them the next day.
What?
Yeah,
There's something wrong with that.
There's not something wrong with you, Weng. It's just something wrong with the thing that you do.
In Ethiopia one time, we were going along the road and I saw someone cooking hot chips and I went, awesome, hot chips. Because Ethiopia's food's it's not Sydney food. Anyway, I went, great. And Anna was with me and I said, great, let me go and buy hot chips. So I went to the person, I went, I don't want the ones that are already cooked. I want the fresh ones. So they put fresh ones in. They cooked them. I stood there, and then they got the old ones and wrapped those up and gave me.
Yeah, it's not what I said. Isn't Ethiopian food like there's a thing about Ethiopian food, right?
Yeah,
it's like it's very meat based though, I think, isn't it?
Oh, no, they have the best vegetarian.
Oh, right.
It's awesome. Anyone who's celiac, there's heaps of great gluten-free stuff too. Yeah, so twice a week, the Orthodox that we work with, in the Amhara area that we work with, they have fasting days, which means they have one meal in the day and it's only vegetable based, and like it's vegan, and it's awesome.
I have had extremely good vegan food, but I think that's few and far between in Australia anyway.
I'll take you to the vegan Ethiopian restaurant.
See, that would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
The one Ethiopian restaurant. No, I think there's two in Sydney.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. We'll get on to Ethiopia soon, obviously. But the second question that we always ask on the podcast is, Trudi, how did you become a Christian?
I'm from a non-Christian family, but I had Mrs. Arnold and Mrs. Smith who taught me scripture at Grace Point Public School, and I was intrigued by this amazingly kind and loving man called Jesus. So fast forward through primary school, and I was about 13 or 14. I went to Kirui High, and it was cool in Year 7 to go to the Christian group, and like 80 of us would cram into a classroom and sing Father Abraham. That was pretty fun. And and there were like just all my friends went. Anyway, I was about 13 or 14, and I was riding my bike around the suburbs of Grace Point, and I went past Little St Tim's Church that was there then, and I heard the organ playing, so I threw my bike in the front yard and went in and joined them. And they knew that doesn't happen every day, so they looked after me, and there's about 20 amazing Christians just went, we know that we have to nurture Trudi, and so they did. And so I was around about 16, and I realised that while I was doing all the Christian stuff, I didn't love Jesus. And then there was a couple of months later, and all of a sudden went, this is my life. This is who I am. And I think there are two main reasons that I became a Christian. One is I was just intrigued by the love of the people towards me. And the other thing is I couldn't accept that there was no God. And I grew up in the national park. I couldn't accept that the cockies knew what time every year to come back. The black cockies came back every year at the same time.
Okay.
I was intrigued by the fact that fires would decimate everything, but new life would come. And I'd look at the patterns of the ferns, and they were just kind of these repeated patterns over and over and over again. That can't happen by accident. And so that was always in the back of my head. And I just was never good enough. You know, I just had this overwhelming sense that I wasn't good enough. And I just wanted to be good enough for somebody. And no matter how hard I tried, and I realised there's this amazing story of God making us good enough because he created us and he loves us, and he sent us his beautiful son, Jesus. And so pretty much I haven't stopped. My parents did ask me, my mum said, Trudi, I was about 18, Trudi, don't become a fanatic. And
there's a bit of that around that kind of generation, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, you are just going through a phase. And I looked her in the eye very ungraciously and said, too late, I already am. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So you said that you kind of realised that around 16, like that was a moment for you. What do you think changed from that point for you?
I think I understood who God was more. I had some amazing Christian people around me who helped me understand this isn't just what I did, but who I am. So it's not... so I even saw Bev Crawshaw and interacting with Stu and Greg, and as they're kind of pummeling each other and she's screeching at them, and I went, oh, this is what a Christian family looks like, as they then reconciled and just went on as if nothing happened. And like for me, that was just hugely impactful, to watch a real family engage in a real way, but in a Christian way.
All right.
I went to school with Stu.
Yeah.
But I think everyone knows
same
that.
year as Stu?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
We rang the Christian group together in our senior years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, Stu's always been a big thinker, so it's been fab working with him across the years.
Yeah, well, tell us what that was like, though, running the Christian group.
Oh, I was clueless. I just did it. But we loved Jesus, and the teachers were really supportive. And, so they let us kind of do what we needed to do. And they were,
That's cool.
yeah.
What made you like? So you've jumped off your bike and you've walked into church for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's easy to think about all the kind of different things that would have been going on. But what made you go back the next week? Like, what was it about? Or not that you definitely did, but like, what made it a thing that was more than just, this is interesting. Oh, okay, I saw what that was.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it's because people loved me.
Yeah.
And they included me.
Yeah.
And they were kind to me. And I don't know, I think that's all like what it was. And those people were so caring towards me over the years.
Yeah.
And I don't think they realised it at the time. They just went, oh, this is different. We don't have teenagers walking off the street.
Yeah.
And I don't think they realised the impact on my life, because I've gone back to them when I've seen them later on in life and said, thank you so much. And they're going, thanks for what? And I'm going, no, you were instrumental in just acknowledging my existence even, like, because, as a kid, no one really takes any notice of you too much. You're there. It's probably changed a bit now. We do take notice of our kids, but when I was growing up, it was like,
to be seen, not heard, kind of
yeah,
thing.
kind of. Yeah. I mean, we still, my parents were great. They were caring, but it was just, I think I thought too deeply about things, and I was going, what's the purpose of life? Because it has to be a God, right? And I was going, I'm not good enough. How do I make myself good enough? And so these people actually helped me work through that.
That's interesting. Like, just from you answering Braden's question, you said again that you didn't feel good enough. Do you think you were looking very much for that love, or were you consciously looking for that support and care, or did you think that you realised that later when you were a bit older?
I think it was both, because I was different to everybody else in my family. I was the first person to finish year 11 and 12, the first person to go to uni. My parents and my family, we get along really well, so it's not like a problem there.
Yeah.
I was just different. I loved school. No one else loved school. I loved to achieve. I was, involved with everything, but it still didn't fill me up. There was this big void in my life. I was just, because how can you be perfect, right?
No, you can't.
You can't.
But did you want to be?
I think so.
Yeah, right.
I think I was really annoyed me, school swimming carnivals, or I went to swimming club, and I was always second or third. I was never first.
Really?
Yeah. Does that make sense? Like, I was just never first. I could never be good enough.
And
I wasn't as good as that person over there.
You wanted to be first in something?
Yeah. And like, I was in the second class in school, they grade them back then. I was in the second class. I wasn't in the first class. It really drove me insane.
Where do you think that came from, though?
Don't know. From the moment I walked, I was taller than my sister. So and she's only 14 months older than me. So maybe the good competition between us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, that makes a bit of sense. Something else I just wanted to bring you back on, just to rewind. You said you grew up in the national park, so in Grace Point.
Grace Point.
Right.
The national park was my childhood.
Right. Tell me more about that. Like, because you said it almost made you think about, like, in terms of intelligent design, and that God has created this. But like, I want to know more about that. Like, it's so interesting that from an early age, because you grew up in that helped you. God put that in front of you in a sense to say, "Oh, I am here." So, tell us more about that and why you thought that was such an impact on you.
Oh, literally, that was my playground. So we made cubbies and we rode bikes, and I probably lost the most skin off my knees racing down the hills that I shouldn't have been on my bike, and going down Temptation Creek on my bike.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Yep. Trying to race back up the other side. Yep. that was our playground, especially like Mum would go on a Sunday morning, okay, everybody out of here, pack your bag, and we'd have sausages in a damper. Like I remember, year 5, in the days that we did have fires in the national park, and we would cook damper and sausages for our lunch. And I said to Mum one day, because the rule was home before the lights come on the street lights, Mum, what if we didn't come home? Because we went everywhere. We'd swim across the river and up into the heath, and we'd run to Engadine, and we go down to the end of, I don't know, Lady Carrington Drive. We could have been anywhere. Yeah. And I said to Mum, especially as we got older, what if we didn't come home? She goes, oh, you would have been right. You knew what to do. Because we just spent so much time there.
Yeah.
She goes, there's the national park, there are boundaries. You can't really get lost. You just have to keep heading somewhere. That was her answer.
No, it's just an interesting comparison of what, like even me hearing that as a parent, I'm like, I don't think I'd do that.
Yeah.
But
we were prepared. Like,
yeah.
We went camping as kids. Like, by year 7, year 8, we were camping in the national park. And so a parent would walk down to the river. So between Grace Point and Audley, there's a little spring with fresh water. And it's just near the sand spit on the... Anyway, and we would camp down there. And a parent would come down, check on us at dusk, and then someone would come down first light the next morning. And there was like a half a dozen kids from the street that would go down.
Yeah.
If we ran out of something, someone would run home, get the sauce.
Get the sauce. We didn't pack the sauce.
Yeah. Who's going to go? You've got to go back up the Skippy Trail.
As a parent, you've been a parent, obviously you have 3 children of your own. How does that compare? Like, did you take things from that of like that's how you grew up, and did you do the same thing with your kids? I
tried to, but everyone went, nah, I'm not doing that. But I did go camping at Bonnievale every school holidays that the kids were growing up. Anna was a baby in arms when we first did that, because I went, I'm so bored at home all the time in the school holidays. So pretty much every school holidays until the kids got too old. Yeah.
Did you carry some of the similar things of just like, oh, you'll be right, off you go?
No, I was probably more controlling.
Yeah.
Oh, but then again, like I was more controlling in some things for sort of safety, especially around other people.
Yeah.
And I would just say to my kids, you'll never die from being overloved. And then, which they hated, and the eye rolls I got, but they know that, Mom. But then other things like, taking Anna to Ethiopia and living in a rural subsistence farming community for 5 months and leaving her with no other English speakers for a week. Yeah. So...
You got a bit of that.
Swings around a
Yeah.
bit.
So maybe you call that living on the edge?
Oh, not really. I'm just more intrigued by it. That's all. Probably because I didn't grow up like that. Like I could only ride my bike in the street, and that was about it. Until I got a bit older, and I could go down to the shops or something on my own. But yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Oh, we used to. Yeah, that's my memory of school holidays. Is that like everyone's on a bike, you just like go and knock everyone's houses that live in a certain radius. It's like, is this person home? No. Is this person home? Yes. Come on, we're building something.
Yeah.
National park, or we found this, or we're doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's my memory of it.
But my dad used to take us camping and hiking and stuff too.
Oh,
so
yeah, okay.
I remember, we must have been about 10 or 12 or something, and we had to carry everything on our backs that we needed for the next 4 days.
Well, 4 days is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. You said you mentioned your family that you said you have just one older sister? Or do
I have an older sister and a younger brother.
Right. And what's it like being a middle child?
Oh, like all middle children, I'll say I got missed out. But there's proof. There's proof.
Guys.
I have one photo of myself under about 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it a good photo there?
No, it's terrible. It's awful. It's like one of those blurred kind of numbers.
Yeah, just like imagine you in the background of another one.
Yeah.
The elder sibling.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my sister is in that photo too. You've got all the time in the world for the first child, and Adam, my brother, is about 3 years younger, and I think they had the technology then. So.
Oh, yeah, right. It was. What else is it like growing up as a middle child? Because I'm not one. You're
Technically one, but
yeah.
Not.
'Cause
Yeah.
your
Come
brother
on.
came
tied,
Tied,
kind of.
yeah.
Yeah.
Technically middle child by 20 minutes, but like, yeah.
But it could have gone either
You could
way,
see
right?
like, the baby photo books. It's like they're quite substantial for us, and then they get smaller as they go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we one of the really great things about being middle child is that my sister was older, and not that much older. So we just grew up together, and so we had these great experiences together. And I would often, in when we played soccer or something, I'd play up the team, the grade.
Oh,
it really extended me. Yeah.
Okay.
Because what else do you do on a weekend in Grace Point?
Yeah.
Go into the national park or play soccer.
Play for the Possums.
There's nothing else.
Up there at Possum Park.
Yeah, possum.
Yeah.
Go, you mighty possums.
Yeah,
Who
let's
go.
thought of that?
I got to tell you, it's better than the lily-pilly berries
Yeah.
or the Sylvania trees.
What?
That's
Yeah.
what Sylvania. They're
I
trees.
thought they were giants.
Nah, they're trees.
No, that's Gaimir.
Oh, Gaimir giants.
Technically giants.
Trees.
Trees.
It's a
yeah.
tree.
That doesn't roll off your tongue,
It's no
does
good.
it?
It doesn't
There's no alliteration or anything.
It doesn't
No.
give you any it's the
Come on, those trees.
come on the trees, and you're like, they're just standing still.
Flutter in the
You
wind.
could have picked anything,
what
guys.
do you sway a lot. There's nothing. You can't even work with that.
And
really.
yeah, berries is close to that too. I was like,
Well, it's great when you're the opposition.
Squash 'em.
Squish those little berries.
squash them like the
Yeah.
berries. But yeah, that's why I like Giants is good. Rockets. I play and coach for the Rockets. That's a good one. Anything else? Stingrays.
Oh, stingrays.
RSL
Yeah, but
Stingrays.
And they have
seagulls,
a
the other.
club.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, Cronulla,
play
that
for
kind of
Cronulla.
makes sense.
I play for Cronulla
Like,
Seagulls.
you know what I mean? Like,
No.
It makes more sense than trees.
can't all be
Yeah, it
sharks.
does.
Can't all be sharks. That's right. Do you know that I only found this out recently. There is a rugby team in Cronulla called the Cronulla Sea Lice.
Yes. Yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah.
Not for a few
It's
years
a great
ago.
logo too.
Yeah.
Can we move off football?
Okay, sorry.
It's not really my favourite.
Just the
Yeah.
sea lice is just like, oh, that's weird.
Matt and Anthony talk about football, and it's like, I understand every individual word, but put together it makes no sense to me at all. It's like you're speaking another language.
Yeah, right. Sorry. Let's move off that then. So you said that, just a question about your family again, because you said that at 18, your mum was like, oh, don't become a fanatic. You'll grow out of this phase. And you said, well, too late, basically. How did your family respond to you being a Christian now? And even things like going to Ethiopia.
Oh, well, going to Ethiopia, how could you leave your family?
Right.
Those kinds of things. They don't understand it, but they don't either, they don't explore why we're doing it either. They think that we're good people. But my family's motto, I don't know whether I can say this on the podcast, my family's motto, even heard it last week, is shit happens and life goes on. So that's pretty much how they approach us being Christians and doing weird stuff.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Weird stuff. A weirdo? All right.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Going to Bible college was just a little bit out there, especially when you're not becoming a minister.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of tangible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's like, why would you study the Bible?
And then actually wasn't that a waste because you're now doing your real job?
Yeah.
Get a real job.
I remember having a conversation with one of my family members. They're like, "You're not going to become a minister, are you?" I'm like, 3 years into Bible college at this point, guys.
What did you
Yep.
say?
Well, you weren't very
It's like-
clear, were you?
That's the
like-
plan, man.
I've been a student minister for like the last 3 years. Like, okay, what did you think I was doing? Oh yeah, that was
You're just preparing for a real job.
yes,
Yeah.
a real job.
A real job. So you're at 18. You're obviously running the Christians group at school, but then you're finishing school. You said you were the first one of your family to go to uni. Did you know what you wanted to do before
Not
you
at
went
all.
to uni?
It was a fight to get to uni because women only have babies, get married and have babies, so they don't need a career. And so there was some kind of argy-bargy in that area. But that was a pretty common kind of thought process, and especially from a family that no one had ever been to uni.
Yeah,
And so I had a choice of a vocational uni degree of teaching or nursing. I didn't get enough marks for teaching, so I got into nursing. But I'm really now a teacher in nursing. That's where it led. So I got to do both.
Yeah, right. And so what did you ended up doing nursing?
Yep.
At what university or college?
The College of Advanced Education.
Oh, advanced. Very
So,
advanced.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. Where's that?
Well, it's like gone now. It was absorbed into Sydney Uni, into their nursing school.
Because that's similar to my mum's done early childhood, and I think she went to early childhood college, but then it like kind of got brought into I don't know if it's Sydney, one of the unis anyway. So a similar thing. Yeah, right. Because there used to be like teaching colleges and stuff like that prior to.
Yeah, but this was a uni campus with different kind of courses.
And what's it like being a Christian on a college campus?
Oh, well, I didn't spend very much time there because I was too busy at church.
Yeah.
Oh,
I went to classes and then went home.
okay.
Yeah, and they didn't have the like Christian kind of stuff that we used to have.
What did church look like at this point?
Bible study, a youth group leading.
Yeah, still at St Tim's or something?
No, I was at Caringbah Anglican because, how's this? Because I was from a non-Christian family, I couldn't actually get home from church. So by then I'd gone up to kind of Gymea Anglican, but I couldn't get home from church. And my parents went, Sunday night, no way.
Yeah.
And there was a lady down the road who I didn't really know at the time. And she brought me home she said, look, I'm not coming home from Gymea, but I'll bring you home from where my kids go at Caringbah Anglican. So I went there. And that's where I met Anthony Romance across the Bible study group.
Oh.
And then we started going out at Black
Catch of the
Stump.
Gaze across the Bible study group.
Yeah, and then we started going out at Black Stump, which was a Christian music festival back in the day.
We've heard a bit about Black Stump from various slightly older people.
Yeah, slightly older. It ages us, shows our age.
Where did they hold that?
There were a couple of places, but the main place was the Scout camp at Appin. So you camped and there was just like this music all weekend. It was great.
Yeah. What's your biggest memory or favourite memory from going to Black Stump?
There's a lot of favourite. I just really love being with people the whole time. But, that's me, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Wherever there's people, it's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. You say, isn't it? I'm like, I don't know. Is that you?
It is, that's me.
Why do you like hanging out with people then?
I love people. I think people are really interesting. People have great lives. But I also really just love to be able to nurture each other and strengthen people. And I've always wanted to be like that. I always want the best of people. I'm a bit of an optimist. And I always want the best for people. I always see the best. Anna goes, Mum, nah, that guy's a loser. You're being too nice.
You can still be nice to losers though.
Yeah, but she's going, no. She says, stop trying to find the story behind the story. That moment was really bad. Oh, yeah,
okay. Yeah, right. So then you finish nursing college?
Yep.
What's the next? Become a nurse?
Nurse, child and family health. Before child and family health, I went pediatrics, neonatal care. Hated the adrenaline rush when a baby crashed. And so I had to get out, had my own kids, and I had to get out. I couldn't do it. So I then did child and family health. Then I went into, I had a business card at one stage that said baby whisperer. I think you were the part of the baby whispering. I know you were the food intolerance and food and baby whispering. And
I can't remember.
I did a whole lot of stuff for child and family health, and I'd help families be able to use their own strengths to be able to have a better life, which was a real blessing. So
you said the adrenaline rush when a baby crashed?
Oh, sorry. That means when they stop breathing or, get really, really sick.
Oh,
and you get an adrenaline rush when you have to go and resuscitate or something.
Yeah.
Yes,
couldn't cope with that anymore.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
It was too confronting.
It would be awful
with
for
my
me.
own children.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
Clarification.
No, it's fine. That's I just wanted to make sure, was there a baby driving a car or something? I'm like, no wonder they crashed. Right. So how long did you end up doing that for? Because like I said, like you said, you I remember we had chats with you about certain things once when we had our first baby, but you must have done that for quite a while because.
Yeah, Anna was 3. Yeah, probably at least 10 years.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, and then afterwards I went into nursing education, teaching undergrad nurses.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things there.
Yeah.
How does Bible college fit in there then?
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
I don't know. Ask your family.
Well, as we've grown up, Anthony and I, or like as we got married, and because we're both from non-Christian families, we had to try and work out how to do this as a family. And so we always said, how can we use everything that we've been given by God, our personalities, our resources, our friendships, how come, and at the faith that he's given us, how can we use that to serve him and give him glory? And so, can you do a Bible study? Yeah, sure. No idea what we were doing. Can you do this? Yeah. Can you do that? And so what we did is we said, how can we be best equipped? And we kind of realised pretty quickly we knew nothing because we'd missed out on all those Bible stories and stuff growing up that gives you a whole lot of foundation. So Anthony and I decided we'd go to Bible college. I did a couple of subjects. He did a year just to skill up and just to see what is possible. We went back into our everyday lives, but what it did is it helped us be able to engage in our churches more effectively. We had this great understanding of who God was because we'd been taught really well. And then we were able to write Bible studies and we were able to run groups. And so it's kind of like a skilling up, I guess, and different things. I've been able to understand how people's places in the world according to God, so that was pretty good. As we raised our family, doing the Bible study groups, Anthony started teaching overseas in India. I know.
I remember him saying that on his podcast.
Yeah. And so he was challenged to do that. I went once with Anna. I loved India, except I was so overstimulated by the sights, sounds, smells, everything. I couldn't, there's too much going on. So then Anthony was invited to Ethiopia. And in Ethiopia, he taught pretty much the same. And at that point, we both said, we need to skill up more. So both of us did a postgraduate diploma at that point, part-time.
At what college?
SMBC.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so I stopped at the diploma, the postgraduate diploma of divinity, but I did a whole lot of other study around cross-cultural stuff without getting an award, and he finished his master's.
Right. It is kind of, we kind of talked about this with Fee, who's been SMBC as well a few weeks ago, of just that extra study, and Braden will be able to speak about this better than I would, but that extra study, I've only done the certificate of theology, but just how much it makes you grow in your relationship with God.
Oh, yeah. I felt really ripped off when I learnt about Leviticus, and it was like I was given the key to the New Testament.
Right.
When I actually, because reading it like for face value is like really hard going. Like, what does it all mean? But when you sit there and you examine it in the context of the rest of the Old Testament,
and in entire biblical theology,
And I remember feeling really ripped off that I'd never learned it. There's a challenge for everybody. Yeah.
You're just like, how did I not know this before?
How? Yeah. Or even biblical theology, which is that story from creation right through to Revelation, and how God tries so hard to turn his great creation, his people, back to him, and they just keep on not responding. And we sit here going, how can you not respond? But we're exactly the same, right? Yeah. And we're the same. Just put your name in there, in that place, and you're there. And so you'd love to think that you were that really faithful person, but the reality is, it's like, I get it wrong, and we take our eyes off God. But understanding God's great character is so awesome. And so how can you not want to share it with people? And that, part of the reason why we're going to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Is that the same for you, Brendan? Like, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I think I just had a very I get it, it's all connected, kind of attitude to it. It's like, but I think about having that intentional time with people who are also just as keen to be there. I think that was the big thing for me because, yeah, like it's a bit of a like cliche at this point, but like you learn stuff in the classroom, but you really have breakthroughs and those big kind of, I get this moments normally happen over morning tea or over lunch, or when you're just like, I can't believe they said that. Like, that's so interesting. I never thought about that. And then someone else goes, well, yeah, I've read this book and thought about this. And you're like, I hadn't even thought about that. Oh, well, then I've had this experience. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, like it's funny how the puzzle pieces kind of fall together. I found that, like I'd have the biggest like kind of like aha moments would be like, when you're waiting in the coffee line or whatever with a couple of people where you've just heard something and you're pulling it apart together. I think, everything in community is more fun, as we've talked about in every aspect of church and learning and life. But I think that was what I really enjoyed. I enjoyed being there with a bunch of people who were just as, if not more excited and smarter than me to be like, wow, this is
so great
fun.
To be with all those brains.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, wow, cool. Write that down for later.
It's going to take me another 10 years to go through all these.
Yeah, exactly.
Put that in a sermon.
Yeah.
You're going to say something though. Trudi.
Yeah, it's really awesome how God, he doesn't want us to do stuff alone. I think often we put our individualistic eyes onto the Bible when we read it, but actually read it in the you is often you, my people, not just an individualized thing. So he gives us everything we need to survive and thrive. And we know that not only Jesus changes everything, but it's in relationship that that we can thrive and grow and be most effective for both worship, and because we come together to worship, as we together as a family of God serve him and help other people understand who he is.
Yeah,
I won't preach anymore. I just get a little bit passionate.
No. I really love that passion because you're right. Like, even I think, like I said, the certificate of theology stuff, I think I'm much better at sharing my faith than I was before I did that. Yeah. And it's the same thing with what you're saying. It's the greater you know God's word and the relationship you have with him, the better you can have relationships with other people for them to know Jesus as well. So I think, totally echo what you're saying. Just before we get on to Ethiopia though, tell us, you said that you met Anthony at Caring by Anglican. Tell us the origin story of Anthony and Trudi Elliard.
Oh, well, I had to make all the moves. Otherwise I'd still be waiting, right?
Oh, poor Anthony.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah, so like, did you meet? Is that right? You met eyes across the community or the Bible study?
Yeah,
yeah. Right.
We're in the front of the church, so think of classic traditional looking church. Was sitting up the front, and we were in the same Bible study group. Yeah, so his group, I kind of joined his kind of friendship group. He was on one side, I was on the other, kind of thing, and then we went to same Bible study group, and then we, just because we hung out all the time, yeah. And my parents were really happy when I started going out with someone 3 weeks before the HSC.
Were they?
I could have waited, right?
Yeah. Nah.
In the
really.
moment.
Probably excited. Probably got you jazzed for the for the
I didn't
HSC.
study anyway, so it wasn't going to change anything.
Well, so you said that your family, you were the first one to finish year 12 in your family, is that right? So why was your why were they so big on you? If you were chosen to do the HSC, so they were like, you need to do a good job at the HSC. Is that?
No.
No?
No. They just because I was doing it, I should actually be studying. Right?
Oh, okay.
But I didn't. I just went to my bedroom.
Right, just sat in your bed, but no.
Yeah.
No studying.
I just scraped into nursing. But it was really funny because like even through my degree, I look at myself now and go, oh, I just didn't know how to study.
Yeah, I think that's me as well.
I got over 50%.
When I turned 27.
Yeah, I got over 50%. And 50% was a pass, right? Yeah. It wasn't until I actually started nursing and got it, and then the postgraduate stuff that I did, I just loved. Yeah. Because my little girl self of 18 laughs now at me working in a uni as a sessional academic. It's like hilarious.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't kind of happen, right?
I think that happens for a lot of people where you're like doing all these things at school and you're like, this isn't really my thing. And then you find your thing and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, this is what I'm happy to really dig into. And whether that's like, we talk a lot about uni on this podcast because of different things, but for lots of people in my life, they knew that school wasn't a thing straight away, and then they've gone on and left school early and done trades or done heaps of other things that like, this is what I'm meant to be doing.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we do at school is we make academia an elitist kind of, that's the target or, the money markets or whatever.
Or the only thing you can do.
The only thing. Whereas, hey, I so appreciate people that can build things. I so appreciate people that fix my car.
Yeah.
I just so appreciate that skill of thinking through how to fix a problem that, I don't have that skill.
Well,
so
people can take things apart and then put it back together. I'm
know,
too scared to take it apart because I won't know how to put it back together. Right? And I'll wreck something. And I'm like, and then it's totally broken.
And they go, just do this. And you go, I'm in awe of you.
Yeah. I see like mechanics, like you said, or even there was a guy at my old work. He doesn't work there anymore. So I still work there. And he would just like, just take it apart. And then I'll just, put a bit of oil on here and then I'll, screw it back together. Oh, that didn't work. So I'll just take this part apart again. Like, I don't have that skill, which is, I think you're right. It's good. It's good to be thankful of the people that can do that stuff. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. I used to always say to my kids, they'd come home and go, I got first. And I'd go, fantastic. But then, they start to gloat and think that they're the best. And I go, I don't actually care what your marks are. I care that you're kind, and I care that you're a good citizen in your whatever community you're in at the time. I don't actually care about academia or like whether you came first. If you are unkind, if you're unkind, that's just our family rule: act in a way that's going to help everyone behave.
Yeah,
because otherwise you're going to lead them to sin.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell us more about that. Where does that come from? Is that something that you and Anthony agreed?
No, I just made it up and I enforced it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because, you can have a dance party in the afternoon when everyone comes home from school and you can have a great time and you can turn the music up and everyone has a great time. But when you're getting ready for school in the morning and if it's making me yell and no one's doing what they are supposed to be doing, it's just going to cause me to get angry and I'm going to sin. So, I'll try and say yes if it works, but it's got to work for everyone, right?
Yeah.
So act in the way that's going to help everyone behave.
Yeah, I like that. Because it's kind of similar to I tell my kids, we got to take care of everyone in the family at certain times. And sometimes that means not doing what we want to do.
Yeah.
And that kind of fits into the same thing as taking care of people. Maybe that's just something that I've come up with. Is like, make sure you're taking care of people rather than, just doing whatever you want to do. I don't care how you feel, but that's interesting.
Can I just say, I did mock and say, no, I just enforced it. But no, Anthony and I are really on the same page with parenting.
Oh, that's okay.
I just want to say, did that sound bad about him? Because he was fully on there and he just supported my decisions and I supported his too. So I just wanted to make that clear.
No, that's cool. Well, I'm glad you brought it back to Anthony because we started this conversation talking about the meeting Anthony and getting together. Tell us more about your relationship with Anthony because it's a big part of why you both have decided to go to Ethiopia. So why? Obviously you started going out a few weeks before the HSC, but how did it grow and develop after that? Him going to uni, you going to college.
Oh, we just, I don't know, we grew up together. So we started going out when I was 18, or we were both 18. And so we just grew up together and it just kind of, we got married and then we just kept on going, what are we going to do? It was weird because I always thought that I would be a missionary. And then my prayer partner, I've had a prayer partner for over 30 years. And I remember when we had kids and we're running around, we're trying to pay off mortgages and stuff. And she goes, well, obviously, this whole mission stuff isn't happening. And I said, yeah, but, you know, God gave me a heart for mission, so let's just pray for missionaries. And so that's what we did. Yeah, so we met like every week at that point. And so we just kept praying. So obviously I got it wrong, right? So God didn't want me to be a missionary, but what God wanted me to do is to serve him wherever I am and have a heart for the people that don't know him. So I would pray for them.
Yeah.
So, and then also, you know, you sit on the park bench with your kids, you know, you're watching the kids at the park and someone sits next to you and they're lonely and they've just moved into the area and they're going, I don't know what life's all about. And you have conversations just in everyday life. So those people also don't know Jesus. So I was that lady at the park.
Always talking to people.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. But didn't I ask you, how did
sorry.
we get understand?
With Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony.
Anthony, back to Anthony. There's no wandering thoughts for me.
That's why I was like, how did we get there?
So we just...
You grew up together.
We grew up together, and so we just kept on keeping our eyes about how do we live for Jesus in our everyday life. And so we just kept on doing that, you know, working out who we are, who he is, like who I am, who he is, who we are, and how that all works together, what we're good at, what we're not good at.
I remember he said on his Jeep Lunch, which is many episodes ago, I can't remember what episode it was, but he said that he thought that he became too focused on trying to pay off his mortgage and working really hard and stuff. How did you speak into that, or how did you respond to that?
I probably was just angry back then. Oh. I'd want to buy a cushion because, you know, to make it more comfortable or whatever, and go, but that's, you know, that $5 we can buy another brick kind of thing. So he was pretty fixated.
Okay.
But he's not like that now.
Yeah.
He's the kindest, most generous person. Like, he's the one that says, if I'm out shopping, and he goes, make sure you buy something for yourself. Like, so I think God's really done a work in him, like worked on his heart and where his eyes were set. And we have paid off our mortgage now, but that kind of really started before that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And I got that from his episode too, that he's like, I regret some of those things. But it's like you're saying, isn't it funny that at certain points God will just turn your heart around in a sense and just, you know, I think it was it was awesome how humble he was when he was talking about that. So
I can't find his episode because we don't call them after people's names. I went up.
No, we don't.
Search Anthony. It's like, nope. I'm like, okay, well.
He's pretty cool in that we always, like, he sits there and, like, while he still has his Excel spreadsheet for, the budget.
That's fair enough though, yeah.
Like, you're full on. I don't even really look at it. He shows me every now and again.
Yeah.
I do vibe maths. I'm really good. It kind of gets in.
Yeah.
Kind of gets into the ballpark,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
We just have different ways of getting there. And he, so he still does that, but he's always going, right, how can we be generous? How can we use what we've got? Both of us working, we ended up earning quite a lot of money. And it's not the money, it's just that he just kept on going, how can we serve God with what he's given us? And that really shaped me. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Episode 63 is where Anthony's on Chip Lunch, so if you want to look that up, yep.
Put it in the show notes.
Put it in the show notes, that's right. It's just me and him, actually.
Oh.
It's a very special episode. So you had a desire to be a missionary, but that didn't end up happening. Where did that kind of come from, do you think? That God just put it on your heart, or you like, that's exciting, that's something I want to do?
Well, you know, as you read the Bible, it talks about, in wherever you are, so that, like, end of Ephesians, it says, like, we're in Christ at the beginning of Ephesians, and at the end of the Ephesians, it goes through different ways of how you can be. But then the rest of the, so that's in your everyday lives. And then, but then through the rest of the New Testament, like, it talks about how Jesus goes, so the gospel, the good news about Jesus goes out to the rest of the world. And, you know, you end it, I think it's the end of Romans, it kind of finishes on this kind of moment of going, well, what happens next? And then so it just, I don't know, it intrigued me. I guess I'm a bit of an adventurer at heart. Yeah.
Well, you used to go camping on your own for quite a while, but that didn't end up happening for you.
No.
But in a way,
but that's okay.
I mean, but in a way, it kind of has in a different way, because you've gone to Ethiopia a number of times.
Yeah.
So like, and then one of the reasons you're on this podcast this week is to actually talk about making a more of a permanent move over there. Tell us about how that all started, because Anthony, you've kind of hinted it a little bit with Anthony going to India and then into Ethiopia, and that's where I'm guessing that the kind of ideas came from, or the thoughts around that came from. What was you didn't really enjoy India, as you said, just because, not enjoying it because it was just overstimulating.
I was so overstimulated, like there are horns all the time.
Oh, really? Yeah, okay.
And the smells, and there's so much culture and colour.
Yeah.
It was so overwhelming.
Yeah, right.
I came home and I was wired. So I was really happy for Anthony to just keep going and to support him and look after the kids, and we'd save our money and send him off again. I was totally happy to do that, and he did that a few times. But once he decided that he was going to have a break, but God had another idea, I was like that. Our plans.
Mm-hmm.
He makes his own plans, and we end up doing his plans. So our plans, but God makes his own plans. What happened is that Anthony was asked by a friend to go to Ethiopia. He'd found this little Bible college in the north, the only Bible college at the time, amongst 25 million people, the size of Australia. And I just think that is just incredible. We didn't quite realise the magnitude of it at that point. God knows, we don't. And I think that's part of our story, is we just kept on going, oh, well, there's this thing here, let's do it. But Anthony had prepared himself. He'd kept building his skills at that point. He went there and he taught biblical theology, and it has just transformed the way that the believers understand God, and they want to know more, and they want to be able to because they understand who God is, they want to be able to tell other people. There were, at that time, 16 students at that Bible college, and it was the only full-time Bible college in that whole place. Now there's 2 full-time Bible colleges, but I think there's only 60 students at any one time. But what happened is that he was there for like 2 days, and he's writing to our friendship group on the email. It was back in the email days. He writing to our friendship group and said, when I bring Trudi and our kids back next year, I write back going, I thought maybe you would kind of discuss that with me first. Anyway, he and you guys know he is quite a thoughtful, measured kind of guy. So something like that happens in our life. It's a big thing. Like something's happening here. Anyway, go back with him the following year, and I fall totally in love with the place. And I see very quickly that how I can empower people to be able to understand who God is, and just even to empower mums in their lives as well. So we became friends pretty quickly with the equivalent of the bishop of the Northern Church. He was the head, and some other people, and who just have actually included us in their family now, because this is where Christian family comes in really, really important, because when people become believers, they're actually chucked out of their own homes often in Ethiopia. So they form households. So we're actually within that kind of household, kind of family, Christian family group.
What did sorry to like rewind a little bit, but like stepping off the plane in Ethiopia, like how much of a concept did you have of what you walk into? What was that experience like when you like first arrived, for people who have no real concept of what it would be like to walk off a plane in a country like that? Well,
fortunately it was to a fairly nice place. Yeah. So it wasn't as impactful as it could have been. Yeah. But everything was different. Yeah. Everything. Like in Ethiopia, the calendar is different. Yeah. The time of the day is different. The way people do things and think is different. Yeah. And so while things look the same, we can make assumptions. So, I'm sure there was some social faux pas going on.
Yeah.
The food was different, you
Yeah.
know. Even the altitude was different, so I was a bit breathless and, just that sort of
Oh,
stuff.
is it up high, is it?
Yeah. Oh, in Bahara is. Oh, yeah, there's highlands. It's the most diverse country in the world with climate and places people live.
Is it? In terms of like rain compared to how hot it is?
Yeah, so
And
you
those
go
things?
from snow-capped mountains to the hottest inhabited place in the world.
Really?
Yeah, so below zero kind of altitude up to, I think the highest I've been is about 3.3, but there's higher,
Wow.
100 metres, 3,300 metres, yeah.
What was the biggest like culture shock you think when you first went there? What was the thing that took you the longest time to kind of overcome?
Oh, I can't remember now.
That's all right.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I came back infected by this place. And I thought I was going crazy. Infected. No. That little worm that kind of poked out of my eye. I went,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No worms.
That's good.
They've been infected with this place. It just consumed my thoughts and consumed, I think, knowing that people were persecuted and didn't know about Jesus. The area that in Ethiopia that we're going to is the Amhara. A majority is Christian Orthodox, Ethiopian Orthodox. But put aside anything you think, they follow rules and rituals. While they've got a really strong biblical history, they actually have no understanding of Jesus as mediator, as the one who came to love and serve, and for us, like the gospel message is not there. Like shown by, we had two priests come to us once and they said, like Nicodemus in the night, they both came separately, and they said, we can do everything you do as believers, you believers, but we can't do two things. We can't be generous and we can't forgive. Now, isn't that the foundations of the Gospels?
Yeah.
Right.
They don't speak the name of Jesus, and you get persecuted if you read the Bible. So where do they get their truth from?
Yeah.
And so while they're called Christian Orthodox, many people don't know the great character of God in sending Jesus to take that punishment for us. They try by works, by fasting, by the things you do.
What do you think that is? What's the historical pattern that's kind of led to that, do you think?
Well, it started off pretty good. They signed the Nicene Creed, which is the statement of faith.
When was the Nicene Creed?
Sorry?
Was that sorry, you're about
we
to say.
say it.
Sorry. No, I said when was it? The Nicene Creed?
4th century.
4th century AD, right.
Yeah, and they even translated the Bible into the local language of the time. But that hasn't changed. And so it's kind of become like Latin was to the Catholics, that no one understands it. And so it's all just about chanting and the action of going to the church. But it's also throughout the centuries, the kings have gotten involved. So, and so there's kings' writings and different things. And anybody who actually read the Bible and understood the truth, pretty much over the time they got killed. And so it's left a substanceless, as far as truth has been stripped out of it, because the kings wanted the power, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's what's happened over time. And so they've lost their way. But so many people are very faithful to God, but they just have no understanding of his great love and character. And they often don't have any assurance, and so they pray to saints and to Mary, and they do all these works. Otherwise, they can't be good. They don't feel that they can't be good enough, and so it kind of resonates with me a little bit.
I was about to say that. Yeah. It's just like you want to help other people from what you've gained by becoming a Christian for them as well.
Yeah.
For those people that live in Ethiopia, a similar thing.
And it traps these people into slavery because they're giving these offerings and they're kept poor, and it's just really sad. Yeah, it's sad that they don't know who Jesus is.
Yeah,
because Jesus changes everything, right?
Yes. What? How many times have you been there?
Oh, about 15.
15 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pre-COVID, I was averaging about 3 months a year.
Yeah.
Oh, 3 months. You're right. I see.
Yeah.
Wow. So you obviously have friends over there now.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually in a family clan. So not only those initial friends,
Yeah.
but Pastor Faru, who was the head of the time, our families became really great friends really quickly. And he said to Anthony when they were off and about doing stuff, I haven't seen my family from his home village and I don't have the money to go and visit them. And do you mind taking a detour? I think they kind of went a day out. I don't know. They went out of their way anyway. Anthony's feeling a bit put out because, it was more than he expected. And he gets there. There's no electricity, water. Faru takes off. Pastor Faru takes off because he's got all these social obligations and Anthony's left sitting there. So that was his first experience. But then, of course, nothing like a little bit of jealousy and envy. I wanted my village experience, right? The adventure in me goes, I want to go. Yeah. And so I went. I laughed myself silly because I had no idea what I was doing. There was no toilet. And so I had to kind of plan about 4 or 5 hours. So there was one toilet in the whole village of 7,000. Wow. And so I had to kind of plan my visits and limit my water. But through that, we were invited back. I don't know why. They thought that I enjoyed myself so much. Because I was laughing so much. Like I went to sleep one night and there were like 20 people watching me and I woke up, I know, right? And having not gone to the toilet, it was just hilarious. And then I woke up in the middle of the night and there's Mama sitting there with an AK-47 guarding us. I'm going, should I be worried about this? Wow. But she was just showing me respect and honour. I know that now. But after a couple of times, Mama, one day she called me and I didn't know what was going on. And she calls me and she goes, Trudi, I'm told this story later on. She rattles through, like rummages through a blanket box. Remembering she lives in a mud hut and there's like hardly anything in it. But she pulls out this blanket. It's a hand-spun cotton blanket that she'd made and she hands it to me and she said, this is for the daughter I never had. And I didn't know that she's saying this, right? And I'm going, no. I can't receive this like one of your only belongings. Yeah. And someone who's one of the brothers was standing there and he goes, Trudi, you must take it. Like he just kind of motioned to me, like, you must take it. I went, oh, okay, I can deal with this later and give it back. Everything changed at that moment. I'm part of their family at that point, and social obligations, everything. And that meant our whole family was part of this family group. So we're now in a family and they love us very much. It gives us protection. It gives us belonging, but it also gives us access to places that not only other foreigners have never been, but other believers have never been. Because in this family, Pastor Faru was the first believer. And you have access to your whole family. So wherever I go, I'm meeting new people and it takes me into crazy places.
Yeah. Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you about, like, we kind of talk about things that maybe been a bit hard going to Ethiopia, but then I was going to ask you, what are the great positive memories about Ethiopia?
Family.
That's one of them, right?
Family, right? So with the family connections, and I think this is the whole thing about relationships. God gives us relationships that he wants us to steward. Like, so we have a responsibility with those relationships we have to care for the people that God's put in our way. You know, like family, husband, wife. Like, obviously we've got to look after our relationship first, but husband, wife, and then the people that we're connected with through work or study or whatever. We just happen to have these family connections that we had no part of the engineering of, but it is, and we belong. One day, one of the elderly women in the family, I think she might be like a second cousin of Faru's father, comes to us and says, you will drive me to see my sons. And Faru said, we're going. And I'm going, I just go, okay. And so we go. And I go because I get to pay for the car. But anyway, so we go, we drive for 14 hours. We then slipping through the mud and it's just the craziest road, and we get to a point and can't pass any further. And so we walk for the next, 4 hours or something, 3 hours. And it's nighttime, and we walk. There's not a light in sight.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, where on earth am I?
Yeah.
And by this time, people have started to meet us, and I have no idea who any of these people are, except for Faru and 2 of his brothers were there, and they're having a great time. So I'm thinking that's fine. Yeah. Then but in the really near distance, there's a pack of hyenas following us, and so I'm just thinking, this is like one of those moments in time, right? Anyway, we get to this village, and I find out it's actually a village like Joshua 8, a village of refuge for people who have murdered. And so I'm going into a murderer's village with their families. I had no idea at this point that this is happening. So I go, I'm welcomed. All this happened, but over the days, I find this information. Why are you here and not back in your home villages? And I work out that some men have never left the village, and I realise they're the ones that have murdered. So I'm sitting there going, okay. However, this old lady gave us the key. So community is key to everything, and family is key to everything. She took us there. So we're guests there. And I asked her one day, I said, I've got my computer and I've got the Jesus movie on it, and would you like to watch the Jesus movie? So I'm asking her because that's the respectful thing to do. She told everybody to sit. It was like this little movie theatre with my computer, and they got to watch the Jesus movie. And they were weeping. How? But in the meantime, the battery light starts flashing.
No.
Of course, right? I'm going, no. This is about 15 minutes in. So I send a little sneaky text with the rest of the battery I had on my phone, going out there thinking, please, someone on the prayer start praying. That computer battery lasted until the last credit scrolled, and then I couldn't, it wouldn't start until I got it fixed back here in Sydney. Wow. But family connections give you connections into places, and when God gives you the stuff that you need to be able to tell about Him. And so that's one of my highlights, is to be able to tell people who've never heard about Jesus and that need Him so desperately. None of them have become believers, but that old lady said, my family needed to hear this. I believe that she actually gave her life to Jesus before she died. So I'm looking forward to seeing her into heaven. What a story,
by the way. But why did they take you to that murderer's village in the first place?
Oh, because this old lady, remember I said the old lady asked us and said, you will take me there to visit my family. Because no one can afford it, and I'm part of the family now. And she needed to get there. Right. Yeah. Wow. I know, it's crazy, right?
You will take me.
But then just by that, you have an in, because it's, I'm with her. She knows him. And it's all about who you are related to. Related to
it's about connection.
Yeah.
And that takes me to the next bit, is through our work in Terry, which is where she's from, where Pastor Faru's family live, and that's a whole amazing story about how people have. So what we've done is gone in and strengthened the believers. There's one believer in that village. And as people came to know Jesus, a little church was formed. But in the meantime, remembering that people are treated like the dead, like they're really persecuted. And so what happens is that how do you then help people understand who Jesus is and actually start to engage within your community? So it was just things like, it's just this thing called love. Love your neighbour. So as people understood the scriptures, and we sat with them, sitting there with the scriptures and helping them work through their own problems, I'd say, and then we'd point things out. I'd say, why are those old ladies flourishing and those ones aren't? And well, those ones have sons and they don't. And so through reading the scripture, they would then realise that they need to be their neighbours' sons and daughters, and they would look after them. So as people were loving people and walking alongside people in the highs and lows of life, the community members started to trust the believers. And so over time, so 2010 was the first time we went into the village. 2012, I was invited back. 2016 was the first time Jesus' name was publicly said. 2020, a church was planted. There were 50 believers. But that's pretty amazing, right? But what was even more amazing is at the celebration time, Australia Day 2020, there were 3,000 people who turned up from the community to celebrate with them because they had respect for the people of the church, and that they'd had been beneficiary of the church's love.
Wow.
I think it's the most amazing story.
And therefore they trusted them, so like, it's like safe to be here in a sense.
Yeah, and so those people that were treated like dead, and you saw that photo where that man was sitting by himself, people like him are now, like he's now a community elder. So from being totally persecuted, not socially engaged at all. So the believers have gone from being dead people to the community to being the ones that bring life to the community. And it's really interesting because that's where there's been a lot of conflict, and that's where everyone's sent to the church. They will love you. They will love you, any people that are coming, any displaced people, and they will care for you. And so it's been a great witness. But then even more is that people around are hearing about that. And this is another amazing thing, is that we've had people like the Argoba people from, they live in gated communities. They're a Muslim tribe, no known believers, but they could come. There was a group of elders came to us with a goat, which symbolises that they want to eat with us, a really uncommon thing. But they said, you're the only people outside of our tribe that love us. There was another group of Afar women who live about 7 kilometres from Pastor Farou's home village. And they came to us and they said, come and teach us anything. Again, it's an unreached Muslim group. And then the next district put a great big sign on the district door. And so the district office, and the sign had 2 of their elders, Pastor Farou and our family, and it said, when they come, welcome them. Like, it's pretty hilarious. That's an open invitation into these areas that believers haven't been allowed to come, and people, outsiders don't go. And so we've got to be stewards of these relationships now. Like I said before, we've got to understand our role in the relationships that God's given. Now, we obviously can't go into all of those places, but what we can do, and what God's skilled us up to do, is to train people to understand the Bible. And so both of us will do that. But then also going into churches and trying to work out contextual ways that people in contexts of poverty and poor education, how can they understand the scriptures more through storytelling and visuals and group kind of mentorship? So setting up those ways, but then also equipping people to be able to build on their relationships, to grow trust and acceptance. So people ask that amazing question, why do you love me? And they got this great story to tell of God's gracious mercy and love for them.
It is fascinating how, as you're talking there about, there seems to be a lot of distrust. Tell me if I'm wrong. In that particular cultural context, there's a lot of distrust around other people.
Yeah.
And then so therefore, if someone becomes a Christian and is openly talking about the gospel, they're immediately ostracised. But then they've learnt that actually the thing that we're missing out on, the trust in a community, is actually, that's why they welcome those people back in a sense. That's a really interesting, and it's not something that we've kind of grown up with. Like we still have to earn people's trust, but it's not there's not that immediate ostracization, I don't think.
Yeah,
Like,
so
or that blatant.
Yeah, so it's about belonging, and there's a couple of things. One's about belonging, and in these communities, they do the same thing the same way every time, and so it's actually really hard to come in with a new idea. You don't belong, you're different, so you're pushed out. And when you have haven't been taught, we're taught to critical think, and we're taught to accommodate, and we're taught to do all these things, but they're not taught to do that in a generalized way. And when social stuff is so wrapped up in what you do to please God, but then you've also got a community that's really based on vengeance.
Really?
You do something wrong to me, then vengeance happens. And what we saw is I did some training, community development training once. No, I won't tell that story. I'll go there and tell this story. Right. I did this training, and we think that love is everybody does it, but it's not natural. It's not normal in these cultures. And I said, love God, and everyone's going, yeah. And then I said, and God asks us to do something else. There's 2 commandments, is to love one another. And we unpacked what that would look like. I don't remember saying this. I'm told this story back. But what happened directly after that teaching, because remember, God's words are powerful to change. What happened directly after that teaching was that 3 clan feuds were reconciled. They ate together. I'm talking clan feuds that have been going on for decades. Bang, bang, shoot 'em up, tit for tat, kind of shoot 'em up dead kind of stuff. Really destructive, really horrible. What I was able to do is join the dots for them and say, it's not helping anybody. Actually look at the pathways for families. Look at what happens to relationships. Look at the poverty that your children are in. Look at how destitute the mothers are because they've got no sons left. It doesn't impact. It's not just like you and your brothers. It's you and your brothers and your cousins, and the extended family are impacted. So the whole family clan is against this other family clan, and they just keep on warring. And that just devastates communities. But having love come into the community and this amazing story of forgiveness that we have, and people are learning to forgive, they're learning ways of peace. The whole community is now working together for their own good. We thought that individuals would come to know Jesus, but what we've seen is that God's ways change everybody, and we've seen the whole culture change that then supports people as they become they come to know Jesus. And we've seen like older men who are still very, very hesitant to become believers, who really understand but don't want to profess. They're sending their children and their grandchildren along to learn from those people into the churches. Yeah. That's in this particular place called Teri.
Yeah, okay. And
pastor for his village.
Talked about that, family feuds, family warring and stuff. And I know that you've also helped us understand that there's a fair bit of civil unrest. Is that vengeance kind of culture? Is that the underlying reason, do you think, about why there is that civil unrest? So there's a lot of warring going on? Is it just, you killed us, one of ours, so we've got to kill one of you? Or is that where it kind of comes from?
Not really. It's tribalism, really.
Okay. So just different tribes, different areas.
So,
wow.
Yeah, and I think, in the past, I'm not saying it was perfect, but they had like a king benefactor kind of relationship where it was kind of mutually beneficial, whereas the king was a benevolent kind of figure who looked after the people serving him. But I think that now it's really just about, the culture seems to be more about, in any aspect, that I need to keep on doing better at the cost of everybody else. And I see it over and over again, even within the church, which is really sad. But we know that when people understand the scriptures, and that, like we've been learning in 1 Corinthians, is that everything we do needs to be for the benefit of the body of Christ. Yep. And the more we can unpack scriptures with people and equip them with God, an understanding of God's word, then people will make that change for themselves.
Mm-hmm. So you're going there for a longer term.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Yeah, so as CMS missionaries.
Yes. Tell us about how that kind of developed and came about.
So CMS set apart people for long-term mission, and they support. CMS is the body of the fellowship of believers that come together to send people. So like people like you who are going, I don't know whether I can do this.
Yeah.
Those people who, for whatever reason, can't do that but see the need. There's 0.2% believers in this area in Ethiopia, and they're all in the urban centres because they've been pushed out of their home villages. And so there's so many people who don't know Jesus. So CMS come together and they send people, but they really focus on full time. They focus on learning language under local leadership. For us, that was a non-negotiable. Within the local church where it exists, for gospel-centred ministry and church-centred ministry where it can be, but and gospel poor and resource poor, and Ethiopia kind of ticks all of those. And what's really exciting is our family want to send us to. So that's great. But CMS has set us up. We went and did 6 months training last year down at St Andrew's Hall in Melbourne. Our family are right behind us, and so it's time to go. Now we're empty nesters. We had like a whole career left in us, right? Whole half of our life. Yeah,
right. And is there a plan for how long? Or there's no end date at the moment?
No end date. Maybe when we wilt, crack or fade.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but one of the hard things for us is we can't actually go into any of these areas, into the region, into the Amhara region that we want to go into because of the civil unrest.
Really, yeah.
We can't go to the Bible College, and we can't go back to this area of Teri and the other areas that we've been working with the leaders. We can't do that yet, but what we can do is we can learn language and culture. That will be our first kind of year. That's what our job will be. Yeah. We'll be doing other things, of course, but that will be our main job. And then we will, continue to build and grow those connections and relationships that we have, and working with people to really think through how can the leaders meet the goals of being able to equip other people so they can take on these invitations. I mean, because it would be ridiculous for Anthony and I really to do it. But other people can. And what we can do is pretty much pass the baton of that relational invitation to somebody else. And when they say, Trudi sent me or Anthony sent me, or for Pastor Faru, it's normally Pastor Faru and Anthony and Trudi kind of, when they send me, they've sent me into this place. Yeah. There's that relational kind of passing on. And so we can do that too. So we're looking forward to a long term there. Yeah.
How are you with the language at the moment?
I've got village language. I can get by. Yeah. I can be the only English speaker in the place, and it'll be fine. I can't go really deep, but I can invite my neighbours for coffee, and I can go to the market, and I can catch a cab. I can, I can know when people are trying to take a lend of me. Not that people are really kind, especially in the village, because we belong now. They know who we are. And if someone comes in and tries to, there was this man who tried to charge me double for bananas last time I was in the village, and I just looked to some of the women who knew me, and I watched this, and I looked, and he thought he'd got a sale, and I said, and more in the bag, and I know I don't want them, and went over there, and they were just laughing, and I went and bought bananas from the women who charged me the right price. I just went, that is way too expensive, so I had to unpack them all again. But he laughed because he knew that they really kind of like playing on situations, like
mischievous.
Mischievous, yeah. So they laugh. So I can make a joke.
Yeah.
Well, that's important to be able to make jokes and have fun.
Yeah,
Like in
yeah.
probably a country where you can't speak a lot of the
Yeah.
language. That's really cool. You can do that.
Yeah. And in Teri, because we're in this family clan, I also have a social position as well. So I had to learn the language.
Right.
I'm a woman, so it's actually awesome because I have no leadership role, but because I'm an elder, I actually have a relational leadership role.
Oh,
so
right.
it's actually quite a really nice thing, and I actually can speak my mind. Women can speak their minds. Mama used to be the town judge.
Oh.
So yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So they're just enacting their own judgments, are they?
Oh yeah,
Like, how does that
there's a
work?
whole kind of eldership system.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So that's the other thing. When we've been able to teach biblical ethics to the elders of the villages of this community, actually for the whole district now and beyond, we've been able to shore up their the understanding of their roles and equip them with ways of doing things. Because, you know, Jesus has some pretty wonderful, peaceful ways of doing things. That means that everyone's on the same page. And when I say we, it's the church comes in and have trained them up and in biblical leadership. And they have been able to be good judges and they've been able to make right decisions for them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Something that we're not really aware of is almost like a self-policing culture like that, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah, it works because there's a whole lot of loyalty and there's a whole, so people take the punishments because it brings honour to their family or dishonour if they don't accept the punishment that the elders of the family clans have agreed on.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. I even come under judgment. So one day I showed too much emotion.
Oh.
I know. I was right.
That's what everyone says. There's too much emotion.
Yeah.
And so Pastor Feru comes because he's the eldest brother, and he comes, and he's the patriarch of the family, and he comes to me and he says, "I must beat you." Right? And I'm going, "What?" And he goes, "This elder that had witnessed my emotional outburst, as I might have been ranting about something and might have been crying hysterically about something that I thought was unjust, but that brought shame to him. And so I needed to be brought into line because I needed to not shame the family by that action." So, of course, I didn't accept the beating. I might have gone, "Don't you dare otherwise." So, but I'm still part of that. I got the verbal beating and the humiliation of actually I was in the wrong. So I had to cop the punishment. The punishment, while it was supposed to be beaten with a stick, I was very chastised and I stayed in my room for quite a long time.
Okay. Yeah, that's wow.
So it's a different way of living, and it's a really interesting.
That's what I was going to say. Very different way of living.
But it kind of all works. Like my whole mind changes about what's clean and what's dirty. My position, it just things like Anna even had to, when she was there, if men came, so if you guys came through the gate and you weren't part of our family clan and you came through the gate and she was there, she would have to serve you. She would have to pour you water. She would have to pour water so you could wash your hands, serve you food. She'd have to go. I wouldn't be able, I would be sitting here. I wouldn't be allowed to do anything. So I would see people coming and I'd say to Anna, "Quick, run, otherwise you're going to be stuck." But she had to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas if she wasn't there, I would then serve. So
It's interesting you raising Anna in that situation. How are your grown-up kids? How are they responding to you moving overseas?
Well, Anna's the best one. So Anthony and I set aside a whole afternoon and we sat her down and thinking that would be a really kind of long discussion and something else happened. We sat her down and said, "So what do you think?" And she said, "Well, Mum and Dad, can you just hurry up and go? I've been waiting for this since I was 5 years old."
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it just doesn't it didn't faze her. She always knew. She'd grown up with us going backwards and forwards to Ethiopia, and she spent a lot of time on the ground. Matt and Sarah are both sending us, and they are really supportive and behind us because they know where we're going, and they understand the context themselves because they've both been there multiple times and spent time with the people that love us. And so they know that we'll be accepted into loving family and community. So, yeah. But my parents, like my mum said, my friends say to me, how can your daughter leave her aging parents? And you know what? It really, really cuts me. But I know that they're cared for here. I know that they have friends to look after them and their neighbours. My brother and sister have been awesome, and just it's our turn to look after mum and dad. So that's been pretty awesome. But it does cut me.
Yeah. Oh, it would.
Yeah. It's really hard. And we've got Alfie and Nina too, our grandkids.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned that Anna has also travelled with you a number of times there. Did your other kids go as well?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think that they're having that experiences has had been for them? Yeah,
I think that they see that people all over the world are essentially the same before God. We all have a brokenness before God. It just displays itself a little bit differently. The expression of how we live within God's creation is a little different. But they also have seen the changes in people's lives. When the angry murderer comes to know Jesus and they sit at the gate and joyfully tell anybody who'll listen about how God had changed his life and how he'd been forgiven, even though he's murdered twice. They've seen that in action. They've seen how when people are loved, how it transforms them. And it's not just about love here and in that moment. It's actually love that drives. And they've seen how people, even though they're persecuted today, say, but I wouldn't change a thing because Jesus loves me. And that's powerful when you see that. And it's powerful when you can look past the poverty and actually see they're exactly the same as I am. And in the same way that I needed to know Jesus and I need to put my eyes on God in everything, they do too. And if they don't know about him, then how can they do that? So I think that's where they've probably got to.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Probably running out of time.
Yeah, of course.
Which is fine, by the way. That's not a criticism of you. But one of the questions that we always like to ask people that come on Ship Lunch, and we ask at the end of the episode, is we kind of looked over different periods of your life, right from the beginning of growing up in the bush kind of thing. And then
I'm going back to the bush.
That's right. So that's what's interesting, isn't it? And I love how, I was listening to a podcast this morning and it said that God uses other people to draw people who don't know him yet to him.
Yeah.
And even in the fact, I was reminded of that when you said, I didn't feel good enough, but then I see things that I resonate with in Ethiopia where people still don't feel like they're good enough, and there's a lot of works-based actions and things like that. So with all that in mind, I was going to ask you the final question, which is, what do you know now that you wish you knew as a younger Christian?
Yeah, I wish I have known God made you the way he made you in every way. Don't try and be like somebody else. Be you, but keep your eyes on Jesus, looking for those opportunities to be able to grow in yourself in faith and loving him, and then also to love others. And that's going to look different for everybody. But God loves you, and in thankful response to his love for you, express that not only in worship of him, but by loving others so that they can know him too.
And I feel like you've done that though. It's always funny with sometimes people when answer that question, and people sometimes say, "Oh, I wish I would have done this," but there's a lot of scenarios where you have done that. Like you said, you upskilled yourself in in your biblical knowledge, because then you wanted to teach it better.
But you got the sanitized version.
Yeah.
Because I think the reality is that I was worried about what people were thinking, and I thought I had to be that happy, shiny person, and I thought I had to say yes to everything, and I thought I had to, do stuff because other people were doing that, and that was cool, and that was pretty daggy. But actually, it doesn't matter whether it's cool or daggy. It doesn't matter what it is. If you've just got to be you, and you've got to be your friends with the friends, and you've got to be the daughter in the family, or the wife who loves her husband, or the mother,
friend,
the friend, to whoever it is, in the expression that shows God's love to other people. And that's why we read the Bible.
That's right.
Because otherwise, how do we know? It's just not our own reference point. It's the reference point is in Him, in our wonderful God.
How does I think that's really a great point. If people are interested in and want to know more about you heading over to Ethiopia or want to support you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, well, you can talk to us.
Yeah, that's a good start.
And I like talking, so it's all good.
Right.
So CMS, there you can just Google CMS Elyard, and our names will come up. And you can either we have a monthly update, tell you what's going on. There's some prayer points. The other way you can help us is by loving our family and the people at Soli's. Can you just love our family? Can you look after them? They're not going to have their mummy and daddy, and we said that before. They're not going to have their mummy and daddy with them. And can you look after them and make sure that they're tracking in life and in relationships and with Jesus? And also the third thing, so that's the caring thing, but the third thing is, can you, if you could consider giving, start off the way where your values lie. It's the same as giving to church. It's like, do you really value people coming together so that they can love Jesus? Do you value that people in unknown places? Now, we can't do this unless people help us. We've given up those careers, so we're not self-sufficient anymore. Point of having to strip my own pride. But if you could consider that, and that's, again, it's using the resources that God's given us for His purposes, whatever that is. So just consider, that would be really cool. The other thing is, you might be interested in knowing more about what does it look like for me in my skills and who I am to be able to go to places where people don't know Jesus. And so CMS love to have those conversations. We've been talking to them for 20 years, so we're a bit slow burn. But if you're really having those those conversations, you don't have to go to out there places like we're going to, but there are a whole lot of places, like if you're really interested in the different stuff that we're doing. But there's places like in Europe, there's a lot of places that don't know Jesus now. And so there are places in Australia, the Northern Territory, there are places in Asia, there are places everywhere. And there are lots of training programs too. If people want to start to look into that, that would be great too.
Yeah, that's cool.
But as you know, there's heaps of things. God wants us to be His people wherever we are, with His ways written on our heart to love and serve Him for eternity.
Yeah, it's really cool. Well, I think it is time to wrap up the chips, but before we do that, Braden, is there anything you'd like to wrap up the episode with?
Oh, it's just so encouraging to see the ways that God has been equipping you for your entire life up until this point. Putting things on your heart, being such an exciting, open, the fact that you just love people, I think is the thing that I think of when I think of you, Trudi, is how excited you are to get to know and interested and loving you are to the people around you. I'm bummed that we won't get that every week at Cura Week, but I'm excited that you get to go and share that with another place in the world. I think it's just so exciting the way that God's just opened door after door for you guys, and hopefully he keeps doing that.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Braden.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and I appreciate the faithfulness that you're just stepping out and doing it. Like, it's still a hard thing to do.
Yeah,
It's
and
still a
you know
hard
what?
thing
It
to go
could,
to a completely different place that you don't know, or you do know reasonably well now.
we're pretty
but-
fortunate that
Yeah.
way. Yeah. But you know, our plans, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to always put them to God.
Mhm.
And so we always, in everything we do, just have to hold them to God, because our plans, we said that at the beginning, what a
Yeah.
good bookend. Our plans are this, and
Yeah.
God has different ideas. And so let's see what God has planned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. Well, thank you very much, Trudy. It's been
Thank
lovely
you.
to have you on and to hear about some of your the origin story of your Christianity.
Yeah.
But also to hear about, of course, all the things about Ethiopia and your love for other people, and just and that your desire to see people who don't know Jesus yet know Jesus. Like, I think that's really, really what I've got out of this. So thank you very much. Thank you
my
to everyone
pleasure.
that's watched or listened as well. Very thankful for that. Keep subscribing, keep watching, and keep commenting, because you haven't been commenting much, but that's okay. But Braden, also thank you very much for today.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you very much. And we always finish with a one-way, Trudy. So let's do that. And thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
One way.